Hello and welcome to the final part of the TR9 trilogy that hasn't been reviewed as yet. And of course, it's this lovely Battle of Britain schemed TR9, and this one's of SM520, marked up as LOG, serial number GILDA. It's a Gilder, currently operated by Spitfires.com at Goodwood Aerodrome down in West Sussex, I believe is the exact county. Of course, the host aerodrome of the mass Battle of Britain gathering all those years back now. So let's get into her and have a little look. So this was originally restored at Duxford many years ago and bought at an auction in central London, and very similar to the other three Spitfires. It's an unlimited Spitfire with no certification numbers on there, which is really cool. And Gary first of all did this last year and did a really good job of it as well. And of course, Corgi come along and decided to do it as well. So he was most chuffed, bless him. But as always, it comes with the standard clamshell approach. And of course, once I get that off a bit heavy-handedly, as you can see, again, as always, nicely put in there. And of course, the down undercarriage is in a separate bag. So let's get her on her up undercarriage and pitch her up. So here is Gilda together. I just want to compare something. So I've got the Mark 1 out, the Douglas Bader Mark 1, and I'm pretty convinced that brown looks slightly off, looks a bit orangey to me. I don't know how accurate that is to the actual aircraft, but let's have a look at the Bader one in comparison. Definitely darker, 100% that dark brown's darker. Very strange, don't quite know what's going on there, if that's a factory issue. Certainly quite garish and orangey almost, a bit diarrhea-y if I'm allowed to say that. Overall finish is really nice. Propeller, very stiff, look, not a lot of movement on that. Again, I'm not bothered too much about that. I'm not using it as a toy. But I'm not convinced around the colours on it. And let's have a look, see if we've got any dihydral. Flat as a pancake. Of course, put the tubes in place. And there's underneath with the early style roundels. Looks rather nice though, doesn't it? It's not hideous by any means, but it's still wearing this scheme. Unfortunately, the Battle of Britain scheme of the Brian Lane one at Duxford has been stripped back now into its standard finish again, which is a shame. I think that would have been nice to see both of these together, especially with the 4 Mark 1s that are now airworthy in the UK, of course, including the new Biggin Hill example. It's got the gas patch painted onto the wing as well, which is really cool. One thing this is missing is the motive actually on the nose, which is really interesting. I know Gary put it on his. I'm not entirely sure if the real thing flies with it or not. I think it does now, but I think when they probably made it, it didn't have it on it. I think it was a relatively new addition later in the season. But it's a great looking scheme, and of course you want to fly in the Spitfire with a Battle of Britain scheme on it. This is the one to go to, isn't it? Rolling, doing rolls over the English countryside, absolutely incredible. Something also a little bit interesting. Instead of having the 8 gun ports on the wings, only got the 2 now on each wing, which is a bit of a difference, I guess. But there must be some logic to that with historical accuracy. But overall finish is pretty good. It's just not amazingly convinced on the colour scheme, and of course it's got its original serial on the end there, SM520. Rather than the aircraft it represents. So let's get her on her undercarriage and see what she looks like on her wheels. So here she is on her wheels, and of course looking absolutely resplendent. She's in the scheme of Nigel Rose's Mark 1 Spitfire, flown during the summer of 1940. And of course Nigel Rose was one of the later pilots to die. He lived well into his 90s, I believe, so always one to be interviewed on the Battle of Britain and stuff like that. And obviously one of the last to go. Of course, we lost Paddy Hemingway last year, who was the very last Battle of Britain pilot, which is a real shame. But these guys lived into their hundreds in many cases, so it's a sad day to see them go. But life goes on, I guess. So yeah, this aircraft was painted into the scheme last year, taking its usual green and grey camo, which it had worn since restoration. I think it's a great idea. Add something very different, and of course there's a whole selection of different Spitfires on the scene. An American one, a Royal Canadian Air Force one, obviously the grey Spitfire, which is famous, non-D-Day one. You've got the two which were at Headcorn, but I don't think they're at Headcorn. They're going to be at North Weald now in terms of Lady Luck and Elizabeth and their standard schemes. And of course, down at Goodwood, you've got a couple of Spitfires as well. And of course, one over in Norway now and one in Holland as well with D-Day stripes on. So loads of options. A US Spitfire, an Australian Spitfire at Biggin Hill. And of course, the two at Duxford. So there's plenty. And also another D-Day schemed aircraft coming out of Sywell relatively soon, which is imported from New Zealand. So options galore for you Spitfire lovers out there in terms of, you know, spoilt for choice, which you'd like to fly in. But yeah, it looks really, really nice. Again, the whole disappointing thing about the Hydro, and again, just to re-emphasise, you are trying to get this out of the box, be careful, they stick in there really hard, unlike the standard Mark 9, so just be careful getting it out of that clamshell. It really seems to stick around it. So now I have a little surprise and put them all together. So here they are together, and of course with a Rogue Mark 1 chucked at the back there, parked sideways. So the first four of our Spitfire 90s range, or review range I should say, so hopefully a lot more to come. We've got plenty more Spitfires to get through, including Witty Wings and Gemini, of course, which I did do the Spirit of Kent relatively recently. And of course a video to come on Gary's Code Freeze as well, which is a very, very special video with some amazing content in there. But I hope you've enjoyed watching this. So that's the TR9s out of the way. I've got to get to the Australian one, which is somewhere in the shed as well, which will be a nice review, and including one of the newest Mark 9s, or both of the newest Mark 9s in fact, including the Beer Barrel Colin Gray one, and of course the Johnny Horton one, which I'll do videos on as well, which I know are out there. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll speak to you soon.